Hi everyone, Kendall here, and welcome to week 4 of our Simply Jelly Rolls Sew-Along hosted by Pat Sloan at her website ilovetomakequilts.com. This week's information sheet has 2 blocks on it, but Pat has decided to extend out the sew-along and make it easier on everyone. So we will actually only be making one of the blocks from this week's sheet, which is the brioche block, and we do need to make 2 of those. So if you haven't done so already, grab your pattern, grab a beverage, come with me, and I'll show you how to do it. Alrighty, as stated in the intro, we are only making the 2 brioche blocks this week, and next week we'll cover the other block on this information sheet. And you saw there that on the information sheet you are supplied with what you need to cut out to make the 2 blocks and which number of jelly roll strips you'll need. So we're going to start with our A rectangles and our G squares, and we're going to be making some elongated flying geese units. This involves us putting a sew and flip on each end of our A rectangles in opposing directions to give us a trapezoidal shape. We will do this by placing our G square, lining it all up. You will notice that I have the piece vertically on the table in front of me, as I always like to do my sew and flips up and to the right, and I know that way that I have the right angle. We're going to line up our folded corner clipper tool on our measurements, which is 2.5 inches for that square, and then we slice that piece off before taking it to the machine to stitch. Now with the folded corner clipper tool, you can just line up that 1/4 inch mark corner to corner and you get the same result, and it doesn't need to be as exacting. So I'm going to get all of these ready. All of these sew and flip units are made exactly the same to look like an elongated flying geese. So we are going to do the vertical corners first, as you see me doing here. We're then going to place it horizontally on the table in front of us with the end that already has the sew and flip over to the left, which gives us our sew and flip going up and to the right, and we'll get that trapezoidal shape that we're after. In all instances throughout, we will press towards that folded corner. With all of those units now made, we are going to grab our B and F squares and simply sew those together in pairs and then turn those into a 4 patch. So we will set 2 of those aside first of all, apparently, for later, and we'll sew all these with our 1/4 inch. We'll press towards the darker of the 2 fabrics and then we'll sew them together into little 4 patch units. With our 4 patch units now made, we just simply need to pick a direction and press. It doesn't really matter, as it's not going to actually butt up against anything, so none of our seam allowances need to nest. So we'll just press these in any direction we choose, and then we're going to bring in our E rectangles and our D rectangles. Referring back to the pattern and making sure that we have our 4-patch set in the right placement with our patterned fabric in the top left-hand corner there. We are going to put our E rectangles on the left-hand side, press out towards that E rectangle, and then attach our D rectangle to the top of that unit that we've created and press up towards that D rectangle. I always like to sew with the more solid fabric on the top, as you saw there, so I rotated it around. The important thing is that when you go back now to attach your D rectangle across the top, that you do place it back in the correct orientation as per the pattern. With those units now made, it's time to pull in those elongated flying geese that we made earlier and making sure that we match the fabric to the right fabric on the 4-patch and set it out as per the pattern. And you'll see here that one goes to the right hand side, one goes on the bottom, but this is where we bring in those F squares that we set aside earlier, and it was 4, not 2, as I stated. And we just need to sew all of our vertical seams here, and then we'll sew across that horizontal seam. We'll press in towards that 4-patch unit on that top section and out towards that F square in the corner on the bottom unit, and that allows for our intersections to nest when we do that horizontal seam. You will see there that I pressed out towards that lower sashing piece on this corner unit, and I'm pretty sure that that's actually the direction it says to do it in the pattern, but I could be wrong. But that's what I went with anyway. We now need to bring in our E and C rectangles and sew those together in pairs, and this just gets us ready for the sashing that goes between all 4 of these to make up the final block. With those pairs now sewn together, we'll press towards that jelly roll fabric away from the background in all instances, and then we need to take 2 of these and put an F square in the middle, which creates our long sashing for the center. Once we've done that, we'll press that, however, out towards the background fabric once we've put our F square in the middle, and then we will lay it out for final block construction. With our corner units now made and all of our sashing made, I do make an error here and I will fess up to it, but let's go with what I'm showing you. We now need to sew the top and the bottom row by putting that sashing piece in the middle, and you do need to pay careful attention to the layout to get the right placement so that your different fabrics are actually in opposing corners. The way I've set this out, I actually get the same fabric on the same sides rather than in the opposite corners, which you'll see once I have it all fully sewn together, but I do undo it and fix it up. So it may be better to lay it out in full in the 9-patch fashion with the 4 corners and your sashing pieces so that you know that your fabric placement is correct. I will show you in a moment here that I did actually get that wrong. I'm an honest man, I'm gonna fess up to it. I was trying to skip a step because my work area here wasn't big enough for me to lay the whole thing out. So in all instances, we will press out towards the, in towards the sashing, sorry, for these 2 pieces, and then that central sashing will just join in the middle with 2 horizontal seams. And now the moment of truth. As you'll see, I've got the 2 same fabrics on the same side there, and they should actually be in opposite corners. So I made a little mistake with how I set that out and chose to sew it together. So just pay attention to the pattern and make sure that you get your corners in the right orientation. Let me just fix that up and I'll be right back with you. Just while I'm fixing that up, I will attach this the horizontal sashing, sorry, to the one side that was correct, and then go ahead and continue fixing up that bottom row. In all instances, again, we will press in towards that sashing. That's better. Now, as I said, we'll press towards this sashing from that horizontal seam, and then we can attach the other side and with one final horizontal seam, and then press in towards that sashing again. As always, with anything that you're sewing and you have a pattern to follow, refer back to it at all times for the correct placement of your pieces to avoid having to have a date with Jack. Although, I don't mind Jack, he's a friendly fella. Alright, so we will attach this one with our final horizontal seam. Thumbs up for having it correct. And our block for this week will be done. But remember, you do need to make 2. Well, what did we think of that, hey? A little bit more of a challenge than last week, but nothing we haven't done before with just sew and flips, a 4-patch and some sashing. All of these blocks are really quite simple when you break it down into its individual components. Thanks for being here again this week. If you haven't done so already, like the video, share it with a friend. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that little bell icon to be notified of all my upcoming releases, but most importantly, enjoy what you do. I'll see you all again real soon. Bye for now.